Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Greg Burge. I'm the principal of Collaborative Partnering Services, and it is my privilege to host this interview about collaboration, strategic alliances, and partnering. I've been a member of the Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals, or ASAP, since 2003 and owe a great deal to the association and its members. ASAP is the lead organization for the United States Technical Advisory Group, or TAG, for the standard ISO 44001. Now, the standard guides businesses collaborating around the world because countries around the world shaped it. Today's segment features Mike Leonetti, and since 2013, Mike is president and CEO of ASAP. Now, Mike is a pioneer in the alliance management profession. While at Boehringer Ingelheim, Mike founded and built one of the first pharma companies to apply an alliance-driven sales model. Boehringer Ingelheim's alliances with Pfizer, Abbott, Eli Lilly and Company, and Astellas, helping the company achieve multi-billion-dollar plus annually in sales of major drugs, Flomax, Mobic, and Spiriva. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Greg. Thank you. I really appreciate being here and look forward to a great conversation today.
Wonderful. So, Mike, just jumping right into it, could you give our audience a little bit of the ASAP's origins and how ASAP adapted since then?
I'd be happy to, Greg, and thank you again for this opportunity. Sure. So the Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals actually began in 1998. A gentleman by the name of Robert Porter Lynch was the original founder. Robert had been strategizing with tech companies back then, the tech Goliaths, whether they were IBM, Juniper Networks, and places like that. And they were creating partnerships. But one thing Robert noticed very early on was that those partnerships were not always successful. So the association was born. Like you, Greg, I actually didn't get involved with the association until around 2002, 2003. The association's original origins were really focused on helping people achieve partnership success. As the association matured in 2001, 2002, studies were actually done that showed that 70% of alliances fail. So the premonition or the premise that the early founders had about alliances requiring skills and people and all sorts of other talent was right. And ASAP was originally founded to do that and maintains that as its mission today.
Huh. Wow. So back then, whatever led you to build Boehringer Ingelheim's first alliance management practice?
Well, first thing, Greg, is I want to congratulate you on being able to say Boehringer Ingelheim. Usually I shorten it to BI, but I give you 2 points for that. So,
thank you.
Greg, in 1998, I actually was doing a partnership with BMS, and we had a multi-million-dollar portfolio that BMS gave to us for blood pressure management. That partnership, of which I was not in charge of, I was in marketing at the time. Mm-hmm. That partnership lasted 6 months. It blew up. Both parties decided that neither party knew what they were doing. And we didn't even make the 1-year anniversary. So that was my first exposure to partnerships. Of course, though, in my job of running the business unit for managed markets, where we were contracting with private and public providers, I was building relationships for a long, long time. And you could call it sales-based relationships, but we really weren't selling. We were influencing. So around the year 2001, my CEO came to me and said, I have a job for you. And at that point in time, I was heading a P&L, and I listened, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to run a major piece of the U.S. organization. Instead, he said to me, you're going to run all of our partnerships. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, you're going to take care of the guys at Abbott. You're going to take care of the guys at Pfizer, and you're going to manage about, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think at the time it was about 1.2 billion in revenue a year through these partners. And I said, well, how many people am I going to get? And he said, well, we'll give you one or two. And so it began. The staffing and sourcing of the partnership management function is the same as it was today, typically understaffed, set up to influence a large number and put with an incredible amount of accountability. Well, I told him I wasn't interested in the position. I said, I don't think I want to do that. And about a day later, he said, guess what you're going to be doing? And so I went into the profession kicking and screaming. Thought I knew what I was doing, fumbled around for about a year, made about another gazillion mistakes. And I found this crazy organization that, believe it or not, one of our research leaders told me about. Martha came to me and said, hey, you're going to need help, man. You can't do this all by yourself. And so she introduced me to ASAP. At that time, she was actually on the ASAP board. I don't really know how or why. And there was very minimal involvement from pharmaceutical companies with ASAP at the time. So when I got there, these guys at Eli Lilly were doing all these cool things with alliances. And I said, wow, there's actually some science to this. And then I started listening to the tech guys, the guys from Cisco, the guys from HP, the guys from IBM. Who knows, Greg? I might even listen to you at one point in time. And honestly, it was an eye-opening experience. I started learning about partnerships, scorecards, metrics. I learned from a gentleman, we'll just call him Milan, at Cisco, that you actually had to measure your partnership success. It didn't just happen. And if you ever wanted anything to go right, you better know where you were going. So to make a long story short, I fell hook, line, and sinker for ASAP. I got involved heavily around 2003, was on the board. 2004, I became chairman of the board and remained in that position in a volunteer role till 2011. So that's my story, Greg, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. But then you came back in 2013, Mike.
Yeah, I did. So after I left Boehringer in 2012, I decided to do it again with a Japanese pharmaceutical company, and I helped them launch a product in the women's health field. And lo and behold, while I was doing that, I got a phone call from a couple of board members, some good friends, Russ Buchanan, who used to be chairman, and said, hey, would you ever consider working and running a nonprofit? Once again, faced very similar to my earlier episode. I said, I don't think so. And that conversation continued, and I was lucky enough to be selected by the board to head up the organization in 2013, and have been doing that ever since.
Yeah, well, we're happy you did. So with all that, what was the aha moment in deciding ASAP would sponsor the Collaborative Business Relationship Framework, or the ISO 44001, and what do you think the future holds?
Yeah, Greg, the aha moment, if I was to be 100% honest, was from one of ASAP's great supporters, Norma Wattenpaugh. Norma came to me and said, hey, this is going to happen. There's going to be a standard for business collaboration. And quite honestly, she said, ASAP has the ability to lead this standard. And it's really an opportunity to show the world, not just the US, but to show the world what ASAP had developed in terms of its certification programs, the handbook of alliance management of best practices, utilizing the framework of the 7 steps to alliance management. Norma really helped me have my aha moment. And she was the leader of the initiative at the time. I said, Norma, I'd love to do it, but ASAP is trying to do so many different things. And she said to me, not to worry, we'll get our corporate sponsors behind us. And when people see how important this is, how important this concept of business collaboration, having a process, a methodology, and a means to the end, she was right. She said they'll join in. And so the aha for me is we had the process, we had the playbook, we had the certification, education, and training programs. We can't afford not to be at the table.
So then how does ASAP turn around and assist leaders in implementing and or deepening a collaborative culture?
I like to keep that as simple as possible, Greg. I mean, if you go to our website at www.strategic-alliances.org, you'll see about, I'll guess to say thousands of ways that we help, whether we're helping with education, whether we're helping with best practices, whether we're helping with certifying your people, whether we're helping with providing people their first look at what alliances are all about and the skills required. But I like to simplify, at least for me, because when I started in this, I really thought I understood, and I really didn't. So I think you need three things. I think you need a mindset, a skill set, and the right people. Let me start with mindset. I come from an organization that did everything organically. We had a CEO that came from an organization who did everything organically. Yet we had these almost $2 billion in partnerships per year. Now, by the way, the US was doing less than $5 billion a year in sales. Actually, at that time, less than $4 billion. So it was an important piece of the revenue stream. Yet we had people who didn't understand the change in the business model required to collaborate, required to trust your partner, required to give your partner leadway to do the things they do better than you do. And so, quite honestly, that mindset was difficult for me to achieve in my organization, as I think it is for many in their organizations. So people who go into business collaborations or alliances without that mindset, as an individual, usually won't have the ability to succeed. But as an organization, it becomes increasingly difficult to have those kinds of discussions when you, as the alliance manager, have to say, I think our partner's right and you're wrong. So that, the mindset, we could probably talk about mindset for a couple of days, but keeping it simple, that's really, the influence. So where does somebody get that mindset? Well, they have to understand what it is that a business collaboration, a business partnership will do to their corporate culture, how it will influence their culture, how it will influence their practices, how everything from the way that they bill a customer to execute a sale is going to change. So that mindset's important. In order to have the mindset, there needs to be a skill set. All right. Where do people learn how to collaborate? Well, some people say they're born with that gene. I don't necessarily agree. I think some people are better collaborators than others, but I think there's a process. Just like everything else in the business world or everything we learn, there's a process. ASAP and its membership has come up with that process, and it's tried and true. It's worked for over 20 years now. And that process has a bunch of highly developed competencies and skills that somebody needs to master to have the appropriate skill set. Well, then the last thing there is the right people. Well, how do you train your people within your organization to be collaborative? A big challenge. But more importantly, how do you get the people in the leadership roles to have the right mindset and the right skill set? Are you hiring the people who understand what it takes to drive a collaborative relationship, to work in one, and to be successful in one. So I keep it, for simplicity's sake, limited mindset, skill set, and the right people. And of course, ASAP focuses on those three as well.
Oh, that's great, Mike. Those three, I think those three things are something everyone can use. So what key lessons have companies learned once they embrace a collaborative approach, and how will it make a difference in their future?
That's a good question, Greg. For me, it comes down to two things. Number one, innovation, and number two, go to market. And let me tell you what I mean by that. As far as I'm concerned, there's no better path towards improving innovation than to form partnerships. Companies have been doing it for a long time on the research side. They continue to do it on supply chain side, whether it's a manufacturing project or a pharmaceutical. It really doesn't matter. You get a real impact, and I think most CEOs recognize that, because many CEOs have an innovation goal, and when I look at how they're going to accomplish it, I typically see partnerships next to that innovation goal. I think that's number one. I think when we talk about go to market, I think it's really, really critical, because whether you're looking to open up a new market, enter a new market, develop a competency that you don't have, or just look at size and speed. The pharmaceutical industry for a long time looked at size and speed. They called it muscle on the street when you go to market. And typically we use that term go to market with our technology companies, because quite frankly, two technology companies, three or four, come together, and all of a sudden they've got 2 or 3 platforms bringing them together, and bingo, they've got a new market entrant. So I don't think it's vertically reliant upon any one particular industry. I think it's for me, partnerships have shown that they're going to have a dramatic impact on innovation, and they're going to have an impact on go to market, whether that's speed, entrance, competency, or just filling a gap. So hopefully that makes some sense.
Absolutely. Really, this has been great. And thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate your time and commitment on behalf of everyone responsible for professional partnerships of all types, and leading ASAP into representing the worldwide standard for collaborating in this new and wonderful digital age. Mike, thanks so much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in how the collaborative journey applies to you, please take a few minutes and complete the complimentary 20-question Partner Capability Assessment Platform, or PCAP, and stay tuned for the next segment of the series. And meanwhile, you're welcome to contact me with additional questions, comments, and ideas using the information on this slide. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.